From formation to taxation, covering inflation, temptation, high expectations, and that dreaded stagnation, we bring to you Hip Nation.
Welcome to 2022, everybody. I'm so happy to be back finally. It's been, I think, 4 weeks since our last episode, so we're gearing up. We are starting a new promo with the podcast for the next 4 weeks. We are going to be giving you a code word somewhere within the podcast that I will announce. This is your code word, give you the code word, and you need to write it down and save it somewhere. You'll do that for the next 4 episodes, and then I will put out a call for everybody who has done so to send me all of their code words, and you will be entered to win a prize. This prize is worth $250. It'll be a set of really nice headphones, a Spotify gift card, Hip Nation hoodie, Hip Nation t-shirt, and a Hip Nation pop socket. It's a sweet prize. So somewhere within today's episode, you'll get the first code word. I'm not going to tell you right now because that's too easy. Next order of business is just a small announcement. My previous co-host, Shay, has decided to leave to pursue her business. So we have in place some temp co-hosts who will be off and on today. We have our first co-host here, who you know from our last episode, Mr. Daryl Richards, and I'm going to hand it over to him.
Well, thanks for that. We've got a pretty interesting podcast today. I'm really looking forward to this one, actually. So our guest has got she warrants a pretty big introduction. She is a very active community member. So our guest today is very accomplished in her field and our community. This is just a snippet of what she's up to on a weekly basis. So I'm going to run through this really quickly. Currently, she's an active member of the Rotary Club of Penticton, Penticton Eagles 4281, Elks Penticton Lodge 51, and Penticton Women in Business. She's also a past member and now a fellow for JCI Penticton.
Whoop, whoop.
Yeah, it's a big honor. Actually, we might touch on that later. It's her 6th year serving with the local immigration partnership division of SOICS here in town, the Community Sustainable Advisory Committee, and the Food Security Working Group for the City of Penticton. She is the Vice Chair of the Senior Wellness Society and Chair of the Starfish Backpack Program. And this is the last. She is also an elected trustee for the Board of Education Okanagan-Skaha School District 67, as well as the Board of Education liaison to Penticton Chamber of Commerce. And finally, this is the last one we'll touch on. She is the manager of marketing and community relations for Total Restoration Services in Penticton. It is with great honor to introduce and welcome to the show Tracy Van Raes.
Woo!
Welcome to the show.
Intro.
Thanks.
Well, and I don't even think I got it all in there.
You can breathe now.
Yeah, I know.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we're very excited to have you. It was a no-brainer since day one. You know that you've been invited to be on here, and I'm just regretting that it took so long because you actually, although you're not a business owner, you may as well be with all the different things that you do, and especially in your job where everybody thinks that you run that business anyways. You can provide a lot of value to our listeners.
Thanks, Sarah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been fun to listen to the podcast over the last 10 episodes, or 9 episodes, I guess, and feel the situation out. So I'm glad I'm here in January instead of at the beginning.
Yeah, well, you get the first episode of the new year.
Yeah.
That's pretty
100%.
cool.
Yeah, I do. That's awesome.
So we're going to talk today about community relations, which is Tracy's specialty. So I'm just going to dive into the very first question I want to know is, what does leading by example mean to you?
Okay. Wow. Nothing like diving right into it. So maybe can I just back up and explain?
Yeah, back up.
Okay. I just because a lot of people don't know me that are listening to the podcast or what I do at Total Restoration, which is really, I guess, the purpose of me here today talking about community relations. So 7 years ago, over 7 years ago, I was working for another company and I was not happy. I was dreaming about work and not in a good way. I was on call. I didn't have balance of work and home life. I had young children at home and I needed a change. So I took a break and then I met Rob Nazer, who is the owner of Total Restoration Services. And he was interested in having me come in, but he didn't really know what he wanted me to do. He wanted me to do some project management because I had done that in the past. But he also asked me, for the first time, someone asked me, what do you want to do? And I said, wow, I wanted to do marketing. And he said, okay, sure, and hired me. And my past experience has always been large corporations. I worked for banks, and then the place I worked for before I worked at Total was quite corporate style. Yep. And so I was not used to this. And so I came in my first day and I sat down in his office and I said, okay, what's the plan? And he was like, what do you mean plan? There's no plan. And I was like, because you both know me well enough to know there always has to be a plan.
Yeah.
And so I was asking questions like, what do you want me to do? What's my role? What's my title? And he couldn't answer. He said, what do you want your title to be? What do you want to do in a day?
Wow.
And I didn't know really how to take that at first. So I did a little bit of project management. And then I would come up with an idea. So I'd go in his office and I'd say, what if we did this? And he was like, yeah, you know what? That's a great idea. I like that. Let's roll with it. And everything was just rolling with the punches. And for the first time, I felt liberated in doing something that I was passionate about. And so slowly but surely, my job left, or my title, my role at Total left project management and moved into marketing. And so I just came to him and said, you know what? Why do we spend money on advertising? Why do we spend money on things like the phone book and all these things when it could be better served investing in our community? And so that's kind of how it started. And so when I look at this, and so I've been there 7 years, and now I'm the manager of marketing and community relations, which that title I had to come up with. And it took me a couple weeks to figure out what I wanted to be called. And I even got questioned by Rob, do you really need a title? And I said, yeah, I really need a title. It needs to go on my business cards. It needs to go on my signature. I need to know who I am.
Yep.
So, so together, him and I, we carved the role. I didn't have a marketing budget. We didn't have a plan. It was just roll with the punches and see what works and what doesn't. And we learned from as we went, basically. So for me, leading by example in my role at Total, I think the important part there is that in anything I do, I'm always dedicated. So I won't say yes unless I am 110% in. And so I feel as though my reputation is what makes me a leader in our community, because people know they can rely on me. And that's no different than at Total Restoration. So when I'm out leading our community in whatever it is initiative that we're working on, I'm there in the capacity of Total Restoration, but people know they can rely on me. And that reflects back on our business. And then that reflects back on my coworkers. So now my coworkers see me leading by example, and they're leading by example. And then management is leading by example. So I think that, that question, it means a lot. It means a lot to me. To lead by example and to be respected that I lead by example.
And I think it's an interesting take take on, like, for me coming from a sales background, it's a very interesting take on almost reinventing the way companies and corporations look at how they sell and how they market to their target audience. And I think what you guys have done really stands out in the community, and it's made me look at how I market, because it's just such a radically different approach than I'm used to. I'm used to that traditional sales approach where you knock on the door, you walk in, you present yourself. And I think that I've always sort of tried to do what you do, but not in that capacity. I think that you guys creating that, and that's how you do it, is amazing.
So if I can jump in here, it's interesting that you say that, because just to back it up, people don't really realize how hard it is to market restoration. It is uber hard. And it's very similar to our friend Kevin Smith, who owns Kettle Valley Memorial. And him and I have had these conversations numerous times, and we align our business models in that way, our marketing plans. And the reason is because we're not a destination. We just need to remain top of mind in case you have a problem.
Yeah.
No different than a funeral home.
Yeah.
We capitalize on other people's misfortune. And that's...
So does Kevin.
And so does Kevin. So does Kettle Valley Memorial. So that being said, how do you remain top of mind all the time? You do that in your community.
In the community, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So...
and something I wanted to add to that too, that I'm sure you realize, but you didn't mention, also touches on what Daryl just said, is that you're not only influencing your coworkers and your management, but you're influencing other businesses
Yeah.
to do the same. I know I was heavily influenced by Total when I started my business, and I didn't even know you then. I just knew that Total was in the community, and that was important to me.
Yep.
And there was no other business to be influenced by, in my opinion, than Total when I started. In fact, I was just in an interview with a couple of judges for the last set of awards that just recently happened. And I was asked who in the community that I looked up to. And my answer was Tracy Van Raes and Jasmine Adges.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Two very powerful women in our community who are very present in our community and helping and giving back. So
Yeah.
And relevant.
Jazz is awesome. We
Yeah.
work side by side with Jasmine at Castanet
Yeah.
on everything that we do in the community at Total. But Jazz is also my friend, and I also look up to her. She's so poised.
Yeah.
And I appreciate her positivity and her community profile for sure.
right? Yeah.
I think it's interesting that we touch on how your community involvement looks and the influence it has on not only your business but other businesses. But I also feel like, just from being in the community and being involved as little as I am even, the influence you guys have on the general population. Like, I don't think it's just other businesses that notice your guys' marketing strategy and how you guys, conduct yourself. I think that it's bigger than that. I think the general population obviously sees that as well. And so I think your influence
sure.
is really strong in the community to try and get the community to be a stronger community.
Yeah.
If that makes sense, because it's easy to be negative and complain about everything that goes on, but to make that change and pivot and try and get people to see the positive things in what you're doing. But it's almost like you guys are you're not telling people to do it directly. It just sort of happens. It's a very organic way to influence. And I think that, I know you've mentioned before in conversations with me that other marketing agencies have reached out to you to ask who does your marketing, because your marketing is so good. They want to know who's doing it. And when they find out it's you, they're like, what? Like, you don't have a big marketing firm that does your socials and does all this stuff. And it's kind of funny how how modest you are about it too. You're like, no, I do it. And it's interesting to see that, because you guys are so heavily involved in the community.
Thank you. Thanks.
Agreed. Do you have any examples of leading by example? That was a weird question.
Yeah.
But do you have any examples? I mean, Total or otherwise.
Yeah.
You do a lot in the community that isn't for Total too.
Honestly, I think that I don't even have to give an example, but what I can tell you is that the biggest compliment to me is that recognition from like what you just said to me about how you based your business around what you saw Total was doing, and that you look up to me or, whatever. And for me, that kind of recognition, I do get that quite frequently. I have a lot of businesses that start up and they say to me, my marketing strategy is based off what Total does. And there's nothing I don't love more than clapping at that, because those people are investing in our community. And then once they see the value in that and the benefit, not just for their business, but for themselves, for their morale, for their culture of their workplace, and all the things that come, it all just aligns. When you start investing in your community, everything comes back. Your customer service is better because your staff is happy, because they feel like they belong, and your culture creates itself. And then you start to, and I know you don't like this, Sarah, but the people that are supposed to be part of your culture gravitate to you, because it's the laws of attraction. Positivity creates and manifests positivity. And, we used to ask in interviews at Total, we used to ask people, potential hires, what do you do in the community? How much volunteerism? And then we realized we don't need to ask that question. It's going to come. They're going to see it. They're going to see, 80% of the staff there do volunteer work, and then they want to be involved. They are proud to work at Total, as am I. Like, I should just state that right at the beginning. When I was talking about how before I was in a job that I wasn't happy and I wasn't sleeping properly and I had to set an alarm. Other than to catch an early morning flight, I have not set an alarm in 7 years.
Wow.
Because I am happy to get up every single day and start my work day. And I know both of you, well, not Daryl, but definitely Sarah, has had emails from me at 5 a.m. That's when I'm up doing my work.
Yeah.
And I love it. I love every day of my job. I literally have the best job in the entire world. I do. And people tell me this all the time. I wish I had your job. I want a job like Tracy Van Raes. And it's true. Like, I do. I have the best job and the best boss, and I work with the best team. And that reflects in the work we do. That's why we have returning customers. That's why we have countless testimonials. We have Google reviews. We have people that go out of their way to say thank you. And that was a job well done. And I mean, what more can we ask for than that?
So touching on that then, in creating this position for yourself 7 years ago, what accomplishments has Total Restoration, like what did it start out like?
Sure.
What awards or accomplishments has Total, acquired over the years, and where are you guys now?
Sure. So when I started there, we had an office manager, a project manager, Rob, who is the owner, but was acting as a project manager, and about, I would say, probably about four staff who went out, who were water techs, laborers, carpenters, who did it all, who did the floods and the rebuilds. And we worked out of a tiny little two-room office, and we had a detached warehouse that was tiny, one bay. And 7 years later, we now have 35 staff. We own our property at 1386 Commercial Way, which is the old Van Auto Wrecking property for those who are local to Penticton. We have an office we've outgrown and done 3 renovations on, plus a double warehouse and a large lot to hold our fleet. I mean, that's part of the success, is that we've been able to hire more local people. We put them through our training and certifications, and then, we're able to offer more benefits, more incentives, all the different things. So we've grown that way, but we've also grown in our community profile, obviously. We have won numerous awards. And that as well is, to me, another one of those, the best compliments we can have is when people take the time to nominate us for a job well done, for recognition. So I believe 2016, that was kind of, when we were starting to create a name for ourselves in the community. We'd been at it about a year and a bit. And in 2016, we were awarded with the, I think it was called Community Support Excellence then, at the Chamber Excellence Awards. And then in 2019, we were given the award for Workplace Culture Excellence, which was a huge accomplishment because that nomination came from one of our employees.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
And that employee was brand new with the company. She's still with us now.
Wow.
Yeah, it was amazing. And then I was going to say last month, but nope, we're in January. In November, we were awarded with the 2021 Business of the Year at the Excellence Awards. And to me, that's well, obviously it's the ultimate award.
Yep.
But it's the wrap of everything all in one.
Yep.
So we've proven to ourselves, but to our community, obviously, that we excel in customer service, workplace culture, resilience, sustainability, and then community impact. And so this is it's the ultimate thank you from our community, and we're so proud. We're extremely proud.
Well, and not to diminish the award you guys got this past year, obviously that's a huge one. The Workplace Culture Award, in your business, what does that look like? Like, what does that look like for staff retention and how your staff say yes when they need to volunteer or, help out or work a longer day? Or, we've been struck with floods lately.
Yeah.
We've been struck with frozen water pipes. I mean, we've had a crazy last 2.5 months here in the south of BC. So what does that look like? I know that award was won in 2016, I think you said.
Community impact.
So 2019 you guys won that.
Excellence.
So what does that award look like, specifically? Because I think workplace culture for everybody, I think is so key.
It
I
is.
agree.
It is because
if you struggle to go to your job,
yeah,
you're not going to do a good job. So clearly that award.
that is without a doubt the most important award we've ever won. Mm-hmm. Without a doubt. And the most, I am positive I can speak for my coworkers and my boss, Rob, that is the most proud moment that they've had.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Workplace culture to us at Total Restoration it's so many things. It encompasses the balance of home life and work life, number one. It puts precedence on mental health. We just recently added an employee assistance program. So free counseling, confidential counseling for total team members plus their families. We're constantly adding fun things to do. We have pool tournaments and bowling tournaments and golf tournaments. We have Employee of the Week. And what that means for our Employee of the Week that gets that award is they get prime parking. So they don't have to park 2 blocks down and walk. They get the parking spot in the
Right in the parking lot.
Right in the parking lot. So that is huge to them. There's no monetary value in that. It's the feeling that one of their coworkers nominated them, and when they nominate, they have to write why. So, so-and-so showed up for work 15 minutes early every day this week. So-and-so, brought the shop back and cleaned up this job site for me. So-and-so recognized this. Whatever it is, it's a coworker going above and beyond, and it's nominated by your fellow coworkers, and then management decides who that person is. And it's that feel-good moment. And of course, it comes with that Tim Hortons gift card, because why not? So I mean, that's just a little thing. We
we celebrate every single milestone at Total. We celebrate birthdays, work anniversaries, and we celebrate it with gift cards and sometimes cake and Visa cards and plaques, and that we proudly display. We're proud of our staff, and it's not just work-related things. You know, we've had baby showers and wedding showers and things like that, and we've gone in on things together as a group. But the volunteerism aspect, it's tough during COVID times to get the Total team out doing things, because there's not a lot of opportunities for that. So I am asked at least once a month for the last almost 2 years by certain staff members, when is Soup Sisters start up again? And Soup Sisters was something that we used to take part in as a team at least twice a year. And it was open to any staff who wanted to do it. And it's such a feel-good moment. You go to Brodo, or you used to go to Brodo, you would do prep work as a team to make soup. And then you would go into the front of Brodo and you would write labels, handwritten labels with the ingredients, and then messages of encouragement on a label. And then the soup was magically ready by the Brodo staff, and you would scoop it, ladle it into bowls and package it. And, you know, you would have a salad and a bowl of soup as well. And then the past executive director at Sowens would come and speak about the importance of, removing or talking about domestic violence in the community and how that worked. And Sowens is, the South Okanagan Women in Need Society, which we are very heavily involved in at Total Restoration in supporting them. But yeah, just removing the stigma in speaking openly about domestic violence on women and children. And so we would have these conversations, and you could see the enlightenment in the room. And our staff would leave after that, and they just felt fantastic. And this soup went to Sowens, and it was gone within 24 hours. It went out to women and children in need in our community, and those bowls of soup were fresh ingredients. They were handmade with love from people in their community. So that moment for our staff to go out and do that was their favorite, one of their favorite things to do. And they all have different likes and passions and stuff, and we encourage those passions. We encourage things. We had a past employee who was very involved in the Dragonfly Pond Society and a couple other different organizations. And he always wanted to do the soapbox derby. And so him and 6-7 of our employees would come in on a Saturday on their own time, and they would build soapbox cars, and then they would race them. And they just loved it. And, you know, I could go on and on. We used to do the Peach Fest parade as a team. We've done so many different things, but it's been hard during COVID, and our staff wants more opportunity, but we have done things. We've done a creek cleanup, which we had a lot of our team show up for and help, and that's on their own time. They're doing that, and they're proud of it. And then that team member is out at a house, and they can, talk about what we're doing in the community. I go in once every couple weeks and talk to the entire team at our morning meeting. And I talk about everything that we're doing in the community, what we're supporting. I ask for ideas, suggestions. Rob asks for ideas and suggestions. And that's how things come to us. It's not just me dreaming this stuff up. It comes from all different directions, and people bring ideas. And if they're passionate about it, we definitely want to help them succeed in whatever it is that they're passionate about, inside and outside of the workplace.
I love that concept, because it's like you're training an entire staff of salespeople.
Yeah.
It really is, because not only do they get to have that conversation with that homeowner to say, our community relations lady was out doing a creek cleanup. They were like, on Saturday, along with our total team, we went and did a
Yep.
creek cleanup, and then they're attached to it.
Yes.
And I think that's just amazing salesmanship too. It gives you a conversation piece. Those homeowners now realize that not only is Total involved in the community, their staff is involved in
Yep.
those same things.
And
They're included.
one thing we've been able to do throughout COVID is support the vulnerable population. And we do have key team members at Total who love and are extremely passionate about helping the vulnerable. And so they bring in blankets and toques, and they bring in food and soups and whatever they've got at home, and they do outreach, and they go out, they come to the food drives, and they help with food on a Saturday. And to go back to what Daryl was talking about, during the last few months, it has been busy for us, and we have had an entire team dedicated to the Princeton location. But what are we doing out there? On our way, we're stopping at the Princeton Food Bank, and our staff is dropping donations off. They're checking in with people. How can we support you? What can we do to support you and support this community? And that has filtered because they know that's the culture of Total Restoration. So they still want to help, and they are working around the clock, and they still want to know how they can support the communities that support us.
Was it like a conscious decision where, in my mind, I'm picturing you and Rob sitting in an office going, how do we create a corporate culture that makes people want to come here every day? Was it like something you guys sat down and discussed, or did this just happen naturally through your like community relations type things? Or
Yeah, it happened on its own. So when we had that tiny, like, say 7-person team at the beginning, when I first started working at Total, there were key people in that team who were passionate about giving back. And I was one of them. And so those people got together and said, let's do this, let's do that. And then, like I was saying before, there was a few things that we scrapped as typical ways to market. And we scrapped those ideas and said, hey, like, how about this for a thought? Our team loves to give back to the community. We love to give back. I mean, obviously, Rob loves to give back to the community. Otherwise, he wouldn't have given the permission to do the things that we do, right? So he's passionate about it. We had some other team members that are passionate about it. I'm passionate about it. So we started going forward, and, we started with little things. Like, I remember one of the first things that we did was we bought a fridge for the transition house for Sowens. I saw a post on Facebook, and Rob is a softie. I will tell you that right now. He's a big softie. And so I came to him and I said, Rob, like, these women they're throwing food away because they don't have enough room for storage, and they're just looking for a fridge. Do we have a spare fridge in the back we could give them? And he was like, let's go, get in my truck. We're going to buy them a new fridge. And then we had it delivered. And it was just the most amazing feeling. But he was very careful. He said, I don't want recognition for this. I don't want it on Facebook. I don't want it. And it didn't matter, because the vibe in our office and the vibe in our workplace and in the job sites we were at was like, yeah, my boss believes in giving back. And my boss believes in investing in our community. And obviously, my boss believes in investing in me. And so that is 100% the truth in everything Rob does with staff. He always wants to know, how are you? How are your family? How are things going? He's very invested in our team. And so, in my opinion now, when I look back on what things were like 7 years ago versus now, we started with a few small community relations things. The buy-in from our staff was there, and now that is our culture. And we have created that culture and expanded on it yearly. And it's all come around in a circle, because it shows in our customer service. It shows in the happiness and the lack of turnover of our staff. Like, we are constantly hiring, not because we have staff turnover, because we are busy. We just keep getting busier and busier. And that's good. But it is very important that we invest in the people on our team. And so we do that in various ways, like I had talked about earlier. So, and then the best recognition is we get, the icing on the cake is we get these awards.
Yeah.
And then we get those shining moments.
Yeah, that recognition is pretty incredible. I was there when you guys won Business of the Year, and I mean, that place erupted. Mm-hmm. It was, everybody in there, I think, knew who was winning that award, because it was really an obvious choice, or an obvious, win. I mean, there was other good businesses in there too, trust me.
For
but
sure. Yeah.
I think when the announcement was made, like there was probably 3 or 4 announcements that night where when the name was announced, that place went crazy. And I think that just shows who the corporate influencers, I'm going to call it corporate because they're businesses, but the corporate influencers are in this community.
Yeah.
And it was very evident in that evening and it was neat to watch, because when you win an award, sometimes you really want, the award is fine, but what you really want to see too is acceptance. Like people are like, yep, that was the right choice. They did the job that, we all should be doing. And then, so I think that really is part of the icing on the cake, like you say, but the acceptance from the business community saying, yeah, thumbs up, good job. And then the amount of people that came by to congratulate you guys and, want to take pictures with you guys. It was just kind of neat to see. I want to touch on something before I forget is, with the podcast being called Hip Nation and Hip Ways to Do Business and stuff, I'm very curious because we've touched on your community involvement and how Total is really involved there. I kind of want to dip into not that that's not hip. I really want to dig into the hip side of what you guys do. Your social media traction, your social media presence. I'm not big on social media, but to see, but I
You're
I don't,
hilarious. Got the Tracy face on the podcast.
Yeah, you
That
did.
is the best.
Yeah. I mean, I love social media, and
Yeah,
I think it's a great platform, and I've always said that the platform for social media is, somewhat misused, especially Facebook. It can be very negative, and there's a lot of complaining on there. Mm-hmm. But what you have done with your social media, your presence, and how you stand out in social media is incredible. So I kind of want to hear your take on how you manage your social media, and then later I've got a question because I really want to know what an average day looks like for the Tracy Van Raes, because
don't have enough time in this podcast for my average.
just Cole's notes. I want to see what your
yeah.
day looks like, because I think for people out there, they don't realize you get up at X a.m. and you are like shot out of a cannon. So I think it'd be neat. I think it'd be neat for I think it'd be really neat for people to hear what your day looks like. But I really want to hear your take on what you guys do as far as your social media presence, because you guys absolutely kill it.
Thank you. So it's obviously it's been 7 years. So when I started, part of my role, I didn't have I had a vision for, but didn't have direction on, was I said, okay, well, I think we need a Facebook page. And Rob was like, what do we need one of those for? And I was like, no, I really do. I really think we need a Facebook page. And okay, well, whatever you think. And so I wasn't sure at first, like, what do I put on here? Like this was all very new to me. It wasn't new to me as like, I do feel like I have my finger on the pulse with social media. However, this was 7 years ago, and I was now representing a company. And so there was a lot of learning, learning curves. And I remember the first, few things I'd put on, and there wouldn't be any traction or engagement, and I didn't know what to do. And it was like a lot of what Sarah would hate, like Google image search, save, right? Oh yeah, I did all the bad things.
Yeah.
But
I mean, that was in its infancy, and I think everybody has stumbled on that.
100%, 100%.
Well, I still do.
But there was so much. You shouldn't. You have the world's best teacher right across from you. Sarah, not me. But the thing is that it was funny. Like, I think every time, Sarah, you talk about things like branding and it just anything to do with color coordinating and Canva and fonts and stuff. I listen and I absorb. And every day to this day, since I've met you, I think about those things when I'm creating socials. But the interesting thing is I'm like, wow, these logos are all different. I have like 6 different logos here. So things like that, just like regrouping and bringing it all and starting from scratch. So these are the kind of the things that I started at the beginning. So it was a learning curve at the beginning of having our Facebook page. And then, I don't know, 4 years ago, maybe I created our Instagram. So then you keep up with trends. And the beautiful thing is that Rob supports me in any kind of course I want to take. So if I see a break, there is sometimes breaks in my calendar.
Hashtag bullshit.
When I see them, I'm like, oh, look, here's 3 hours where I don't have a meeting. So I'm going to take a little social media webinar or something. So I'll take these little things and just so I can stay up and current on trends. Anyway, what I started...
And not to interrupt you on that, but I just want to touch on the trust that Rob has for you and you have for Rob.
That's
that relationship, like he lets you really manage that.
Yeah.
The social media, the community, really, he really lets you dig into that and he trusts you 100% with that.
And there are times where I ask, is this okay? Should I do this? And there's been times where he said, can you remove that? And that's totally fine. And that's, he signs the paychecks.
He's present.
But I'll tell you what Rob does. And that is the truth. Rob is present. People don't know him or see him, but he is there. He is 100% there all the time. So one thing that I'll tell you, just because it reminded me of that, is Rob will constantly say, like, and I don't know if Sarah's ran into this, but I know like Terry at the Chambers ran into this. Any of our advertising, Castanets ran into this. They will come to him and they'll bypass me for whatever reason, which is fine. He's the owner. And they'll say, oh, hi, Rob. We're wondering if you'd like to attend this. We're wondering if you'd like to speak on this. We're wondering. And his exact words, and they will all tell you, and they're probably all nodding their heads and laughing right now listening to this podcast, especially Terry at the Chamber. This is what Rob's famous words are. I have a Tracy Van Raes for that.
Yeah.
And so social media is no different.
Yeah.
He has a Tracy Van Raes for that.
Like that in itself, he's almost made that a job title at Total Restoration.
Hey, that should have been my my job title.
Tracy Van Raes, Tracy Van Raes.
I have a Tracy Van Raes for that. Not my manager of marketing and community relations will handle it. I have a Tracy Van Raes for that. Every company needs a Tracy Van Raes in them if they want to accomplish these things.
So to talk about socials, just to fast track back to socials. One interesting thing that I'd like to share, because it's a great way to get your team involved, and I've given this tip to a lot of people, a lot of business owners, when they say, oh, I'm struggling for content. What do I do? What do I do? Well, we have a team of 35 staff. So I ask them for content. So they text me all day, every day, silly photos of them doing all sorts of stuff. Our favorite thing, obviously, because we're all animal lovers at Total, we always have we have every kind of animal, but usually dogs in and out of the office. Our staff loves taking pictures of other people's animals, and we get close to our clients. We are with them for up to 6 weeks. So we know their kids' names. We know their pets' names. The pets know us. We're spending so much time with them, and there's a lot of trust that goes into that. And so they're constantly, we have one team member that if I went through his text, all it is cats and dogs and horses he's seen on the side of the road and deer in the field, and he just loves animals. And so, things like that. And so what happens is if somebody sends me a photo and I use it on social media, they get credit. And then once a month, we have a staff appreciation lunch where Rob stands up, cooks us lunch or brings us in lunch or whatever he does with lunch. He comes in and he stands up and he says, thank you, everyone, for a job well done, and then goes into whatever detail it is that we've been doing. Like this month is going to be a big one because our staff has not had time off since just before Christmas.
Yeah, they worked through the holiday.
They worked. Yeah. They left their Christmas dinners. Yeah. They left their New Year's celebrations, and they were out just extracting water nonstop. They didn't have breaks. And add COVID into that, we have a variant that's making its way through town. And so people are sick and customers are sick. And then, it's crazy. It's a crazy time right now for us. Obviously we're ready and able to handle it, which is fantastic, but we're starting to see the burnout. Totally. So anyway, this is going to be a big month for thank yous from Rob. Yeah. But you know what? When I look around and I watch him speak and I look around at my coworkers, they all are smiling and nodding because they know it's genuine. And he really does truly appreciate what each and every one of them bring to the table and bring to the team. So anyway, they get recognition for that, but they also get their birthday and work anniversary recognition. And then they win prizes. They win gift cards after they send me so many photos that I put on socials. And that's a great way to engage the staff. That's a great way to get to know what's happening, especially if you're not, finger on the pulse like me. Since the pandemic started, I work mostly from home. I have lost my office / desk about 6 times since I worked at Toll. And that's fine because my job is community. So I don't need to be in the office. Yeah. I do need to come in and, get to know new staff and listen. I love to sit in the office and just listen to the conversations and what's happening and stuff. But at the same time, I'm not in the office as much. So yeah, so that's what we do with our socials. And it's a little bit different. People love to look at pictures of people. And I remember a reporter for a newspaper taught me that 20 years ago. They said, people love to look at people. Yep. So as soon as you put people in the newspaper, they want to see if they recognize them. Great. So that's what I do.
It's a great way to keep your staff relevant or out there in the public so that your homeowners that you're helping see those socials and they're like, oh yeah, that's the guy or the girl that was working in my home.
Yeah. And that
it's their birthday today or whatever.
That is probably the number one comments that we get and likes and follows and stuff is from past clients.
Yeah. It just introduces your staff to the world constantly and that they're real people and they have birthdays and
and they do silly things.
Yeah. Yeah, your socials are great to see because a lot of people don't, put time like that into their socials. So those are amazing socials. I think that they really solidify the fact that you guys have that workplace culture.
Thank you.
Yeah. So in the introduction, I listed off a whole pile of things that you're involved in. It's big font so I can read it because I'm old.
But what font is it?
Is it one whole page?
Sans Comic,
Calibri.
Yeah, it might be. I don't know what it is. It's whatever comes up on my Word.
Comic Sans.
Yeah.
Definitely not.
How do you use, why so community involved with things like Rotary and Elks and Starfish and JCI? How does that play into not just your business side of who you are, but how do you, because clearly you're passionate about these things on an individual basis, and I think you would be doing these even if it didn't work into your daily work schedule.
Right.
So how do you use those things, those relationships, those things, how do they tie into what Total is doing and what Tracy Van Raes does on a daily basis? What are those things? What do they mean to you and how do they work into what you do?
Right. Tracy just pulled the list out. She's like, let me have a look at this.
Yeah, she's like, I don't even remember everything I'm involved in because there's so many.
It's not even that. It's just like, I wanted to give examples. So, from Total's perspective, if we're investing in our community, we need to take an active role to learn what we need to invest in, what needs to be invested in.
Right.
That's how this makes sense. So if I look just at, for instance, the Senior Wellness Society, that's a relatively new role for me. And it was one that was missing. We didn't have our finger on the pulse on the senior part of our community. So what are seniors' needs? So at Total, we give back in all sorts of ways. Sometimes it's monetary donations through sponsorships and and whatever. And sometimes it's like a gift basket for, a fundraiser that someone's doing, a PAC or whatever. And then other times it's through volunteerism. So it's
I'm sorry, Daryl's like having a dip of his tobacco right now, and he's got this menacing look on his face.
Yeah. I'm
Sorry.
Sorry, guys.
I'm used to
I was
it.
trying to be super sneaky there, and Sarah started laughing because I was packing another dip in.
So
Sorry, Tracy.
that's okay. No, it's okay. So that's how. So we do that through volunteer hours. We do it through all different ways. So how do we know what our senior population needs unless I'm there learning what the senior society needs?
Yeah.
So that's how we do it. That's how we keep our finger on the pulse of all different needs in our community. I mean, obviously, Elks, Eagles, Rotary, JCI, and sorry, Sarah, but to quote the creed from JCI,
Yeah.
service to humanity,
Service to humanity.
is the best work
Yeah.
of life. And
Yep.
all of those are service organizations. And so that's what they do. And that aligns with me and my values. And that aligns with Total's values. So those are no-brainers. But a lot of these committees, the committee work that I do is that it's keeping our finger on the pulse of what the needs are in our community. And that's no different than I've been, excuse me, I think I've been on 5 city committees. I was part of the OCP. I was the chair of the transportation committee. I work with Community Sustainable Advisory Committee. And then food security working group. Like there's just so many different working groups and things that I've been involved with the city. We are a large business operating in this town, in this city. Of course we want to be involved. We want to hear what's happening. We want to have our fingers on the pulse. And that's not for profit. That's just for our own investment into the community. We pay taxes. We are a landowner and we employ 35 local individuals. That's a chunk. To me, that's a chunk.
Yeah. That's potentially 35 families that you guys influence on a daily basis.
Yeah.
100%.
And then they're influencing
That's right.
the people they know because they're so proud to work there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No.
Hence the Business of the Year award. I mean, clearly somebody thought about that when they awarded you guys that award because, your influence is clearly pretty heavy in the community and with your staff.
Thanks.
Something that my dad always taught me was that if people feel like they're part of the process, they will buy in.
Yeah.
So just as an example, my dad is a safety professional. He's got all kinds of letters after his name. He's the highest safety professional you can possibly be in Alberta, and maybe even in Canada. I don't know. But his job is extremely boring to 99% of the population. Most people don't give a flying fuck about safety, right?
But it's such an essential part of every job
is.
site you go to now. Like
It is.
It's the one thing you have to have.
Yep. And he's in the home building industry. So he would do things like at safety meetings, he asks questions to people. Why do you do this? Okay. And then they give an answer. Well, why do you do that? And then why? And it just gets people kind of thinking about the process. If he has to write a new safety procedure, he'll get the people doing the thing involved in it.
Yeah.
Involved in the actual writing of it. And then they at least know that procedure off by heart because they were part of it, right? And that doesn't stop at safety. In anything you do, when you get people involved in the process, they're gonna buy in because now they feel like they're part of something and they belong to something.
Yep.
And I think for him to say that is pretty big because I spent 20 years in the oil patch. And safety was the hardest thing to get people to buy into.
Yes, it is.
It was always a running joke that, safety guys coming, better put your glasses on. Like, it was always that people didn't buy into it. And it was just such a weird, there was like a divide there. So for him to find a way to get people involved, I mean, that's pretty incredible too. I mean, that's good marketing on his part.
And he's lucky to have been able to work at a company that supported safety.
Certainly.
Because I can tell you, I also worked in safety. I was the safety coordinator for a trucking company for a few years, and not all companies buy into that. They see it as an expense that gives
Just
them
like
no return.
marketing.
Yeah.
Just like marketing.
But marketing, I mean, directly you can see marketing giving you a return.
Eventually.
Yes.
In restoration, 10 times as hard.
Yep.
For sure. Yeah. In businesses where you don't have a direct sale channel.
Yep.
Absolutely.
This is part of every year when Rob and I sit down to do my review. Soon as I sit down, he's just like immediately, because he knows this is, he doesn't have numbers in front of him that he can say, you brought this amount
Right.
of money in.
Right.
Whereas he has that with the project managers,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
So he's
You
always
can
like,
track them.
So he gives me my own sheet of accountabilities and, questions for myself, and I have to mark myself, and then I have to give myself feedback and, next times and did wells and all the things. And we do it together, but you can just see the frustration on his face every year because he doesn't know what to do with me. He says, I never know what to do with you. And funny enough, like there's two of us that, we're the longest standing employees, TJ, who's a project manager, and then myself. So it's like, okay, well, after 7 years, you'd think that you'd have this nailed down.
Yeah, it's the same conversation every year.
Yeah, it is. And you know what? He always gives me great feedback to work on. And I always am, obviously, we're always harsher on ourselves. And so I always, I'm very hard on myself. So I always have a lot of feedback for myself. So anyway.
So community involvement is clearly a very natural fit for you. I have actually heard conversations secondhand where young startup businesses have gotten advice from older businesses saying that they should back off on the amount of community involvement they have.
What?
Because they're too out there and it looks a little too,
Yeah.
it looks like you're doing too much. What advice do you have for people starting out a business and how much community involvement they should, or what their capacity of community involvement should be? Because I think the old guard maybe doesn't understand that community involvement. Or is intimidated by it because it's a little bit, it's out of their comfort zone.
Yeah.
So what advice do you have for anybody starting a business that, wants to do community involvement and how that can help their business?
Can I just cut in really quick and
Yeah, you
say
can. It's your podcast.
how much is too much community involvement?
Well, and isn't that just a moving target?
That feels gross to even say.
Yeah, and it was an interesting.
Well, maybe
it was
then.
an interesting interaction, I think, and I just didn't. I don't think Tracy and I actually discussed it, and we didn't really understand it. But
Maybe instead, I'll just rephrase it as, what is the value in investing in your community? How do you see what is the value in that? And for anyone starting out a new business, like I've talked about this whole podcast, all the reasons that it's community relations is beneficial or investing in your community. But I think the number one tip I would give anyone starting up a business is first to ask yourself, what's your target market? So if your target market is teenagers, right, or 20s, you need to be on Snapchat, you need to be on Instagram, you need to be doing this stuff. And from there, what's important to them? Now, target that. So, is Foundry important to them? Is, pride important to them? Diversity, inclusion, what's important to them? Find what's important to them and utilize that in what you're giving back, in your path or whatever it is that you, but also it's also equally important, what are you passionate about and what is your team passionate about?
I was going to ask you about that.
And those they're both important. Like, so as an example, because you touched on it, Starfish is something I champion.
Yeah.
Starfish is a backpack program that I chair through Rotary. And it's, we have a budget of 60 backpacks that we give out every weekend for kids in need in our community. The backpacks have food in them to get a child through the weekend. And that program is near and dear to my heart. And my passion shines through. Every time I talk about it, people cry. People cry. So I'm not going to get into it here. People cry, but
People crying is a good thing.
it is.
Yeah.
It is.
talking
It clearly
about this,
touches
yeah.
them.
Yeah.
There are business owners in this town that when I walk in to collect their yearly donation from Starfish, they look at me and they start
bawl.
crying.
Yeah.
And then they're like, Tracy, because they love me being there. But as soon as they see me, it brings back, a lot of people that donate to the Starfish Backpack Program is because they faced food insecurity as a child. Yep. And this is their way to get back. There's all sorts of reasons why people do it. But I'm passionate about that. And so my passion shines through when I talk about it, how much work and effort I put into it. And Rob has a huge heart, like I've talked about. Kids in need, he just he 'em $100 bills.
Yeah.
Take them.
Yeah.
Take them right now. I just want to throw this out there because this is really funny. Well, it's not funny. It's funny to me because I know Rob. But at Christmas time, we picked our a family to give away a Christmas dinner to, and it was like a $500 value. And so I got the submissions and I wrote out what I thought should be the winning family based on the nominations. And I said, but here's the backup and this. And Rob was like, well, that's it. Just get them all. Get them all at dinner. Because he can't just pick one. Like if he hears a story.
It hurts his heart just to pick one.
It hurts his heart.
Yeah.
And he does that every single year. So every year he's like, we're just picking one. He never picks one. He did it 2 years ago when we did this too. He picked 2 other families. One he presented them with like $500 in gas cards because that gentleman couldn't use a turkey because he lived in an RV, but he was undergoing chemo and radiation and driving from Osoyoos every day. And so Rob was like, take my money. And then another family that just tugged on his heartstrings. So we'll get them a Superstore gift card. And so, it's easy because my passions are honored. And so Rob just lets me go.
Mm-hmm.
And there again, right? You get to be part of that process,
Yep.
so you buy in return, and that's evident when you say that you have the best job in the world,
100%.
working for the best place in
Yeah,
the world.
you really get to live out your passions
I
and
do.
get paid for it.
Yeah.
I do.
And it's amazing to see because it shows in your work and it shows in your work ethic.
Thank
And
you.
speaking of that, I want the snapshot of what a day looks like for the Tracy Van Raes.
Sure.
The Tracy Van Raes.
Because I know you're an early riser, as am I.
Yeah.
And I have a fairly good idea what you accomplish in a day. And I'm just going to lead up to say it is astonishing to me how much you can get done in a day, how organized you are. So give the people a quick overview, the Coles Notes version of what your day, an average day looks like.
Sure.
And I'll add
Not a
to that
Saturday.
too. Once you hear about this day, listeners, something that always shocks me about Tracy, I work very closely with Tracy on a lot of projects and sit on committees with her. And something that always shocks me about you, Tracy, is when you say, yeah, I'll do that. And then immediately the topic changes, the conversation changes to something else. And I'm like, oh yeah, Tracy will forget about that. Tracy never forgets.
No.
Ever.
If she
You
says she's
never-
going to do something,
Yeah.
it's done.
And she doesn't
You
even
can
write
check
it
off your
down.
list.
She's like, yeah, I'll do that. And you never have to follow up and ask how things went with that certain thing or if she got it done because it just gets done.
Mm-hmm.
It blows my mind how you remember everything. So let's hear about this day.
I feel like the lead up is too much.
Oh yeah, your head is big.
No, it's not.
We
Not
just
as
been
big as
bragging you up.
yours.
Yeah, that's true.
You have definitely looked in this window at your reflection 5 times.
Wow.
And he can't walk past a mirror without looking at himself.
Anything reflective. I mean, I got to make sure the beard's right and the hair's tight.
We're going to have to cut a bigger hole in
Yeah.
my doorways.
Yeah.
for
Just put a
Daryl's
mirror on
head.
that back wall for him so he
Yeah.
can just look at himself.
I'd
flip
appreciate
his
that,
hair.
actually.
Yeah. Anyway, so I get up early. I'm up at 5. My brain works best early in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not going to lie, by about 2-3 o'clock in the afternoon, if I don't drink coffee, I'm bogging big time. And so there's days where I work a 12, 13, 14, 16 hour day. I start at 5 in the morning because I have a 7 a.m. meeting. So at 5 a.m., I take I answer all my flagged emails from the day before, and I get a lot of emails in a day, as do you, Sarah and Daryl. So I answer those emails. I always have lists. I have Post-it notes that I put in my list book, and then I pull them out and I put them. It's just it's absolute chaos, but it's a small area of chaos, and I know where everything is, and it's all Post-it notes. I use my calendar on my phone, and it's linked to my email on Outlook, or on my laptop. So anywhere I am, I just put in my appointment. As soon as, if I'm on the phone with someone, I put them on speaker, I flip over to my calendar, I put it in. I don't ever forget. I just don't. And it's just because I'm organized. I organize my day. And that's how I can do what I do. When you introed me and all those things, that's probably the most common thing I get asked. How do you do everything you do in a day? Because I'm organized and I stay organized. But I also have this crazy OCD obsession with crossing things off lists with black, thick pens and highlighters. And I love to-do lists. I love making to-do lists. And for anyone who's listening to this podcast who has nothing to do with business but knows me on a personal level, you will know because you've seen my camping binder.
You have a camping binder?
With lists of shopping, lists of meal plans, lists of places to go, lists of renovation, and it's all color-coded. When I used to go to Mexico, I used to take a binder, color-coded sections with separators that had like copies of birth certificates and healthcare information and maps and places to go and what had the best reviews. I have done so well in the last 5 or 6 years with not doing those things anymore. That was bordering obsession.
Yeah.
Now it's like, this is basic stuff. So anyway, I get up at 5 in the morning, I answer all my flagged emails, usually from 5 to 7. Then I do my socials. I go through and I check socials. I do a lot of work with socials. I would say I do about 2 to 3 hours on socials. And maybe it's just engagement or sharing and commenting and commenting as total and stuff like that. Keeping my finger on the pulse. By then, I've usually had 4 or 5 more tasks added to my list and return emails, so I add those in. I always have committee meetings every single week. So I have Rotary every Wednesday. I have Starfish that I prep for, so I send in the numbers to Save on Foods, who then in turn has food delivered to Elks, and then I'm coordinating Rotarians to go pick up food and backpacks and return to schools and so I do that. I do some social media work for the Eagles. So I've got Harley sending me an email or a text with, this is what I need this week. And I get that done. I schedule it into my day. I schedule it into my week. So my calendar says, do Eagle social media posts, do Rotary social media posts. So when I see that I'm, maybe working, maybe there's 45 hours where there could be 60, that's when I commit to things. I say, yes, I can help. So last night I had someone reach out to me and say, hey, would you mind helping me? I've kind of been left on my own on this project and I need help with sponsorship. I sit for a minute and I think, this person is trying their best to get this stuff done. Who would I be as a human being if I didn't say yes? I also believe in this person. And I believe that this person wants to do good and wants to better herself and better the community. Why would I say no to that?
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Because if I'm teaching her what I've learned in the last 7 years, she's then teaching someone else. Yep. So it's an automatic yes. My schedule, okay, let's look at it. And then I fit her into my week. But yeah, I have these committees that I sit on. I have chamber board meetings. I have networking events. I have courses. Plus I have to be in the office doing things. And then I have website updates. I've been, doing blog posts and responding to Google reviews. The list goes on and on. But organization is key. Mm-hmm. And I work around the clock. There is no such thing as Monday to Friday, 8 to 4. The team at Total doesn't do it. Why would I do it? Yeah. And so a lot of times I'm at events till 10 o'clock at night, or I'm there on a Saturday at a food drive, or I'm Sunday at the Eagles supporting a fundraiser they're doing, or I'm at the Elks helping them with something. It's around the clock. And I love what I do so much that none of it is like work to me.
I was just going to say, it's it's more like you have a lifestyle that you get paid for.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Which is, I mean, what more could you ask for in life than that?
But
Like, that
anyone-
really would be the best job ever.
Mm-hmm.
It would be. And here's the kicker. Anyone can create that. You can create that in your business.
Yep.
So create what I do and duplicate it, triplicate it.
Well, I mean, you didn't even touch on the fact that, okay, let's say your day starts at 5 and you work like crazy till 2 or 3 in the afternoon till you get that tidied up. And then you didn't even touch on the fact that you may have a school board meeting that goes till 9 or 10 o'clock. And there's months where you have those meetings weekly. So, or twice a week.
Yeah.
And pack meetings with schools. And then the volunteerism that you do, going out and doing outreach. And that's an evening. I mean, your day doesn't just go from 5 till you put in your 8 hours.
Yeah.
You've then got to pivot and now do your next thing, which could be school board related, could be anything that you're volunteering with. So, I mean, and that's just one day.
Yeah.
There's 5 days in the week that this can go on. And
100%.
sometimes it carries over to Saturdays and Sundays, like the pathway cleanups and stuff like that.
Yep.
So, I mean, an average day for you is not anywhere close to average for most people. If you have a 9 to 5, you get up at 8 o'clock, eat your breakfast, go to work from 9 to 5, and then you get home and you get to shut down. You know, your day isn't like that.
No.
You have, your days are full, very full. And I think that's what amazes people is how much you accomplish in that day, how organized you are in that day. And you are clearly leading by an example that if most people would just try and be a good human being, they could too fit this stuff in their day and do the extra things, shovel your neighbor's walk, go do outreach work, volunteer somewhere, just put in that little bit of time and you can accomplish so much.
Yeah.
So
Thank you.
it's neat to see just a small snippet, but I don't even think you touched on all the things that you get done in a day because you are a busy person.
Yeah. It's always different too. My day is always different. I love it.
And grocery shopping that you do, and running your son
being a mom.
Yeah, you're a single mom, so you're running your son around to activities, and so it's pretty incredible to watch.
I agree. I want to ask you about the Post-it challenge, but first I have to say what the code word is before I forget this episode. And I should have said it before. The code word is alpaca.
Like the llama?
No,
they're
llamas
different.
are gross.
Yeah, they're a whole different thing. Alpacas.
Alpacas are the best. Anyway,
they make great sweaters.
they do, and socks.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
True. Never thought about socks.
Yeah. Post-it challenge. Have you ever heard of this?
No, I don't think so.
Holly
Oh, maybe I have heard.
told me about this a few months ago. What it is, or what she's done, is you take a pad of Post-its, and every time in your day that you start a new task, you write down that task on a Post-it, take the Post-it off, and stick it, I don't know, on your desktop or just somewhere that you can see it. So every single time you start something new, whether it's sent an email to a client or sent an invoice or made a phone call to an outreach program or whatever it is, you write it down. And then afterwards, you collect all of your Post-its. For you, there would probably be millions. And you can kind of categorize them and see like maybe what duties could be taken off your plate and given to somebody else.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So I think that when Holly did this, I might butcher this, but I think that she did it to try and figure out what duties would be good for her new general manager should she hire one.
Oh, neat.
But yeah, she said it was a really cool exercise, and I've been meaning to do it too, but I feel like that would probably take more time in my day to write out all the Post-its than
kidding.
my actual day takes.
Yeah.
But
I
If
agree.
Tracy's going to do the Post-it challenge, I'm going to clearly buy stocks in 3M and Post-it because their stock is going to go through the roof. I don't know if Staples will be able to get enough in.
Well,
be cool
and
to do it though and document it like on a time-lapse video or something.
that would actually be cool.
Yeah.
I don't use those little Post-it notes like I see you have there, Sarah, the little tiny square fluorescent ones. I use the big, huge line
Like a
ones
notepad style.
because I need to put each line is a task on my Post-it from within my big book that came from my calendar. So
Golly.
that's like the third row down.
Yeah.
But I love it. I love it. It's like it just lights a fire.
Yeah.
The funniest thing is when she goes to clean her car
Oh, yeah.
in the spring. So
In the spring, like I clean it once a year.
she opens her door, and in the pocket in the bottom of her door is just full of Post-it notes, because once they're done, that's where they go, is in her door, and she keeps them in her door.
Because I put them on my dash. Because I
she
have
sticks them to her dash,
85 errands to run in a day. So it's like, pick up this gift basket, drop it off at this non-for-profit, pick up these forms, drop them off there, go here, do this, do that. And the list is huge. Go to Save-On, pick up Starfish, go to Elks, do this. And so when that list is done in a day, it gets folded and put
And stuck in the door. The best part,
Oh my
the
God.
best part is when she
everywhere.
cleans the Post-it notes out, she will open them and look, because
just in case I forgot something. Which I never
if there
do,
was
but-
something she forgot from 2 months ago, I better go do it now. But she never forgets. But she still is got to check it again, even though the list has been checked like literally probably 6 times. Once it comes out of the door before it goes in the trash, I better check it again.
Yeah,
so
yeah,
it's
yeah.
kind of neat to
You're
watch that too.
exposing my OCD right now.
Oh,
Daryl.
totally, yeah.
Thank you.
Well, that's what podcasts are for. Like, there's no real platform here. We're just supposed to call people out.
That's cool.
I just started using the reminders app on my iPhone because I also would
Yeah.
love to use Post-its,
Yeah.
but they don't stick to my car dash. They just fall off. So I just use my reminders app, and it's almost as satisfying when you get to press the little
Yeah.
button that says completed. But I agree, it's probably more satisfying to actually draw a line through it.
And you know what? Everybody has different views on that, because I've had this conversation more than 100 times.
Yeah.
And a lot of people like that, the tick. Some people like to write it. It's like some people like to use digital calendars as opposed to like a board calendar or wall calendar. So, yeah.
Yeah. I know we're a little late in the podcast
we?
for this,
Yeah.
but, we should have almost touched on this briefly at the start, but like where, what's just a brief history of you? Like, where are you from? Where did you grow up?
I grew up in
You know.
Summerland. I graduated from Summerland Secondary in 95. I've been in the Valley for over 30 years. I think 35-ish years. And never really left. I moved around a bit, like Caramias, Oliver, Summerland, Penticton, Kelowna when I went to college. But yeah, I just, I love the Valley. My entire family lives here, so it would be hard to leave. I have 2 kids, Jackson and Jordan. Jordan lives in Calgary. She'll be 22 next week, which makes me feel old.
Right?
Jackson is 14. He goes to Penn High. And yeah, I have 2 dogs, and I love my community, and you've already heard about all my passions, and yeah.
And
That's me.
you spent a little time on the farm when you guys lived out Caramias way, I believe.
Yep. We had a
So
little
kind
hobby
of a farm girl, yeah.
Yeah, we had a little hobby farm. It was small, but it taught me hard work.
Yeah.
Getting up and changing sprinklers every day at 6 a.m.
Yeah,
Maybe that's why I get up at 5 a.m. Thanks,
fight-
Dad.
Fighting the rattlesnakes off for the sprinkler heads.
No, it wasn't rattlesnakes. It was bull snakes.
Oh, bull snakes.
Yeah. And it only seemed to happen when the city slickers came out to visit.
Yeah.
Because they weren't used to alfalfa that high, and they weren't used to changing sprinklers, and they thought this was an opportunity. So it was, one in particular that went out with her gum boots and her fancy, woo, I'm a country girl today, until she saw that 20-foot long bull snake wrapped around the pipe, and she screamed and ran, and then she wouldn't leave anything grass that was longer than 2 inches tall.
So you can see.
Yeah, so she could see what kind of critters were up in those fields.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's fantastic.
So yeah, shout out to my dad and you know what? Huge shout out. Shout out to my dad for teaching me work ethic. He taught me work ethic. He taught me hard work and results. He made me sit down and do my homework every night. He made me study. He checked in. He asked. That was his role. Shout out to my mom for teaching me volunteerism and the importance of giving back. So that, you have Tracy.
Yeah. You were definitely the product of both your parents.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Which is cool.
And I think it's interesting that you touch on community because, I'm not from Penticton, but when I moved here, I have kind of a natural ability to create a community. So I'm just naturally outgoing so I can meet people and stuff. And I think that...
I think they call that an influencer.
Well, possibly, or just, lonely, so I needed people around. I don't know. But I've always had a knack for wherever I've lived to create some kind of community and then get attached to that community. And I think that you touching on the fact that you love your community, I think you create that. I think that when you get involved, you actually create that community. And I have no doubt that your community loves you too, because you are very active in the community, but you've created that.
I just lead by example.
100%. Just be a good human being and lead by those examples. Absolutely.
And I think more than anything else, in this community, you are respected.
Mm-hmm.
There, whether or not someone likes you or is in your circle or whatever, or even knows you that well, they still respect you, I think. Or at least that's what I witnessed.
Yeah, for the most part. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank
for being here, Tracy. Thanks. Those are kind of, I think you've touched on all of the questions that I had.
Yeah, I think so. It all comes full circle.
It does.
All of it.
It does. Do you have anything else, Daryl?
You know what? I have nothing to add. I think it was a fantastic opportunity for us to get to know a little bit about what you do and how what you do will influence not only your business, but the people within your business and your community.
Yeah.
And I think that in itself is a pretty hip way to do business these days.
I agree.
Because
hip.
I think the old school way of, telephone, the telephone book, that's Yellow Pages. Mm-hmm. That is just, it's not what we do now. And I don't think that that's what people are really looking for. I think that your approach with total support is clearly, it's clear that it's a winning package.
Yeah.
And I think that...
and we make mistakes and we tweak as we go and we learn.
And everybody will.
Yeah.
And what works for them individually. Like exactly what you do may not work for the next...
Yeah, that's right.
The next business or a competing restoration business. Yeah. It may not work for them, but it's just neat to see that take on how to market. Mm-hmm. Take your money instead of buying advertising and advertise within yourself. And it's golden. It's worked well.
Yeah.
Extremely well.
Yeah. I agree. And people, I think, see that. I think there's businesses out there, maybe not in our community, but maybe, who do community work. And you can tell that this is just a self-serving,
Sure. Mm-hmm.
I'm here to do this because it's good for my business.
Yeah.
But you can also tell on the flip side when a business really means it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I think Rob really means it.
He does.
Yeah.
And even some of the businesses that walk alongside you guys, you can tell that they're passionate about that as well. They get involved. It's part of their culture. It's part of who they are as a human being. Because I think that you touched on it earlier about making sure that whatever you get involved with in the community also aligns with how your passion for that. I think it's hard, like you said, Sarah, when they're just doing it to be out there in the community to self-serve their business. You can see it, and I think that it just doesn't align with their passion. And I think that you definitely have to make sure that whatever community involvement you have is your passion.
Yeah.
And then it's genuine, and it serves better too. It certainly will serve better.
And for those companies that are doing that self-serving community work, I would suggest that you find some sort of community work that you are passionate about. You're not just going through the motions to give back, but maybe something in your life. Maybe it's cancer, maybe it's animals, or like whatever it is. Find the one thing that you actually do care about and volunteer or give back to that, because then it shows how genuine you really are. And if you're not passionate about anything, maybe get passionate about something, because
everyone has some sort of passion.
Yeah, it's in there.
Yeah.
It's in everyone.
For sure. Or be a better person.
But also support your employees in their passions.
Sure.
Because your corporate image, this could be the start of that. So if there's 10 of you and you're the boss and 9 people want to be involved in, they want to start a slow pitch team, and they want the funds to go to OSNS, support them in that. You're going to have an amazing workplace. The culture is going to be great. People are doing something that they're excited to do and passionate about. The balance is there, and you're supporting them, and your business is supporting them. Maybe it's team shirts and like with the business name. All of a sudden, there you go, right? I mean, start somewhere. Start somewhere small. Like I said, you know, for us, it was buying that fridge for Sowen's transition house.
Yeah.
And boom, look at us now. We give back so much money to Sowen's, monetary donations to Sowen's and other several vulnerable parts of the vulnerable sector, non-for-profits, charities. Thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars a year. And that's where our passion lies. It lies in helping others. And this is what we do at Total Restoration. We go into someone's house and we help
them.
others.
Yeah.
So it's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
You want to give us your book recommendations?
Sure.
Always end off with book recommendations. They better be good.
Yeah.
Everybody's listening.
Well, you know, it's interesting because I've listened to all the podcasts and I listen to everybody's things, and everybody's book recommendations are about business. And I know you started this off with, you're not a business owner. I have been a business owner, but that stuff, it's interesting to me, but I have such a large spectrum of books that I like to read. And I read a lot of biographies, and I read fiction, and I read self-help, and I read everything in between. But right now, I have read and am reading 2 books about truth and reconciliation. Because again, I am passionate about Indigenous affairs.
Yep.
And the calls to action for truth and reconciliation. So the one that I read earlier this year was 21 Things You May Not Know About the Indian Act by Bob Joseph. Amazing book, easy read, mind-blowing. The things you will learn in that book that you probably did not know that are in the Indian Act, I mean, it's insane. The other one that I am just starting, but is fantastic, and I've had numerous conversations with some of my friends like Chewy, Matthew Barron, and he guided me to this book, is What We Have Learned, Principles of Truth and Reconciliation by Mary Sinclair. Basically, it's about the findings of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission of Canada, and how what we need to do to create that reconciliation between Indigenous and non-Indigenous people. And then also, just on the other side to that, is last January, I read a book called Loving What Is by Byron Katie, and I love that book so much. If anyone has struggles with, you know, a situation and how to, you know, a lot of people, a situation happens and you play the situation over and over and over in your mind. You need to what's called get out of your own head, right? This helps you with that. It helps you do what's called the work on any situation. And it can be in the past, it could be trauma-based, it could be a conversation with your neighbor, it could be a relationship with your kids, it could be your marriage, it could be anything. And it's just doing the work on yourself. And the worksheets are available online. Anyway, it was what I needed when I read the book. I picked it up. 2 of my good friends both recommended me this book the same day, completely unrelated. And so I feel like that book is meant to be in my life, and I pick it up all the time. And for any listeners that are my friends, I have 2 copies. So if you feel like you need the book, I will lend it to you, because everybody should have this book on their bookshelf. Loving What Is.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Tracy.
You're
Tracy
welcome.
Van Raes. It's like it's, you know how in celebrities you always call them by their first and last name.
Yeah.
I feel like that's you.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways.
And Kevin and I have this ongoing thing. When I call him, when I call him, he answers Van Raes.
Yeah.
And when he calls me
too.
When
Tucker.
he calls me, I'm like Smith.
Yeah.
So I think it just goes with the territory.
Yeah.
Of it's like, okay, we got shit to do. What are we doing? Come
Yeah.
on, like get to the point. I don't want to sit here and just la-di-da, how's the
Yeah.
weather? I want, what do you want?
Yep.
Let's get it solved. Onward and upward. We're all busy people,
And
right?
when are we meeting?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that's that.
Yeah.
So
Awesome. Excellent note to end the podcast on. We are almost an hour and a half, so this is perfect timing. Thank you again for being here. Thank you, Daryl, for coming and co-hosting today.
Thanks for having me.
Daryl will be back. He's going to do some more co-host spots in the future.
I look forward to it.
Yeah. Thanks again, guys.
yeah.
Thank you.
And stay hip.